Warning, the following may contain subject matter that is not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, guys, episode 4, Midnight at the Monster Museum.
Midnight at the Monster Museum.
Tom Devlin here. Jeff's going to sit this one out because I have a very special guest, Dave Sheridan. You might know him as Doofy from Scary Movie. He was in Ghost World, Bubble Boy, the list goes on. This guy's always either a douchebag or a funny guy. And you know what? I think he's going to tell you why and how it all started, and here we go.
But I'm never a funny douchebag.
Okay, so here I am with Dave Sheridan. He shows up at the Monster Museum, and he's here just to hang out, sign autographs, meet people, and this is an honor, man. It's great to have you out here.
It's good to be here, Tom. Tom, is this only audio?
This is only audio.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't know why I did makeup. This is crazy. I put my makeup on you.
Well,
Why'd you put this?
I don't understand the laundry.
Why did you put these scars on my face? I don't understand. A lot of people don't know my normal voice is very deep like this, and only when I changed it. If we were on video, I would try to do a voice that would match my normal look. I'm joking, America. It's Dave Sheridan. It's little different.
So,
yes, I'm here in your workshop here in Boulder City. Is it Boulder City?
Boulder City, Nevada.
Colorado.
Nevada.
No. I thought the drive was really short from LA. I was like, I had a case of Red Bulls. I was pissing in a Red Bull on the way. I go, I'm going all the way to Colorado.
I can't tell you how often people confuse us from Colorado. And I remember I when I first moved here and I was like, I'm opening a monster museum. And everybody's like, why would you do that in Colorado?
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm in Nevada. Oh, okay. Wait, why the hell would you do it in Nevada is what I want to know. That's what I don't understand.
It's even hotter.
Yeah.
Hey, I like to melt the latex.
But
the latex melts at this degree.
Well, no, if you keep it air conditioning,
Exactly.
24/7.
I know.
But yeah, man. So for those of you who don't know, over the last summer, I did a flick with Dave called Killer Rose. It was Caroline Williams, Felissa Rose. There was a ton of horror icons and great personalities in there,
Including myself.
Including Dave
I don't know,
Sheridan.
can I be considered a horror icon? I'm trying to get there.
That's what I was
shifted
kind of.
gears.
So this is what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
As of lately,
Yes.
you're showing up in a lot of
I did that on
mid to
purpose.
low budget horror films.
I made that. That was a choice I made.
Is that are you grasping for fans or what's going on?
Yeah, kind of. So ultimately, my history is I'm from the East Coast. So I went to school in New Jersey, grew up in Jersey and Delaware, and went to school at William Patterson University. I was a film major. And it was just outside it's in Patterson, New Jersey. So it's about 15 minutes outside New York City with no traffic, across from the George Washington Bridge. So my senior year of film school there, you can do internships in New York. And my first internship was with Dan Rather at the CBS News.
Wow.
William Patterson, their film school is a communications film.
Okay, so it's
Communications film,
television-ish.
radio.
Yeah.
You got to do, there was radio classes. Their radio station is very good. College radio is always independent rocker.
Right.
So they had that going, but the one difference, because Seton Hall has like pirate radio, which was close. And so they kind of had that nailed in terms of, hey, we're playing Fugazi or whatever it is. And so William Patterson went more sports, went more news, like, you know what I mean? Like their radio station was more like real DJ training.
It was like ESPN.
It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to sound like I'm on NPR and I'm rolling, Depeche Mode songs or whatever, the thing is.
So you did voices and zingers and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah. What was funny was at that school in the radio department and film department and the video department, this was early 90s. This was a turn of the turn of the 90s, 87 through 91. And right in that period, everything was going digital.
Right.
So all the studios were switching over, all the film, we edited on 3/4, but while I was there, it all went over to an Avid system, which was really a video toaster, Lightwave, New Tech was the company, but it was their version of digital. There was no more. So I ended up though, because I had a truck, first of all, and I could steal a lot of stuff. And because the way it works at university, they don't know anything. So you back up, you put the truck down, you put a little sign in, hey, loading. And they were getting rid of all the 3/4 reel-to-reels. They were getting rid of all the 8-track loop plays. They got rid of all their records because at the time in the radio station, it was all records, all music records, but also all the sound effect records. So I took everything.
That's awesome.
I took everything. They were getting rid of it. It wasn't like I really stole it, but it wasn't really mine to take. It was just in a room, and I just said, screw it. And I just loaded, okay, kind of, I mean, there was, the janitor was like, letting me in, like, oh, you're here to pick the stuff up? Yeah, man. I talked to Dr. Rosenberg. He said I could take this. And, but then most of it ended up in my mom's garage for like years, like especially the records. She said, do you want these sounds? Because it was going digital. Then all of a sudden it's like, no, I don't need it. I have DVDs of that stuff.
Right.
Like, yeah. So then I had all this crap that I couldn't use either. It was outdated. So, but but because of it was a news-based radio station, their contacts with the producer or the professors and stuff was in CBS News, NBC News. Okay. So that was my first job, was working with Dan Rather and actually Paula Zahn, who was like and Harry Reid or whatever, I forget Harry Smith on CBS This Morning.
Yeah.
And so long story short, that was not me.
Right.
I was a comedy guy through and through. I went to that school and I made comedy films. Everyone else was making artsy documentary stuff, and I was making Spanish porn dubbed in English as a comedy. You know what I mean? Because when you're shooting on film, it was like 16 millimeter film with no sound.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm just going to I lived in a Spanish part of Patterson where Un Tipo Suave was in it, because there was a Un Tipo Suave billboard for Joe Camel. And it was Joe Camel, but it's like Un Tipo Suave. So I called my porn Un Tipo Suave. But all the stores were Spanish. So I just got a local actor there to do this porn, you know what I mean, of a guy thinking that he's banging this chick, but it was like me with a mustache at the end. So there's a comedy reveal. But it was like the boom mic and the thing, and bad lighting, and taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't shoot something nice in the first place with a Bolex wind-up camera.
That's all loud and clicking.
And then we just dubbed it in English and put like, the Shaft music guy. Who did the Shaft? Quincy, right?
I mean,
Quincy Jones crap, It sounded real porno-y. But again, it was like the record crap, the scratchy record. And then I remember taking the film and throwing it all on the floor and having people walk on it and stuff like that.
So it looked crummy.
Yeah. So in the presentation in class, that's actually through a projector.
Yeah.
Right? Our final presentation. And I was like the third film of the year for like 12 films.
Yeah.
But mine was covered in hair and scratches, and it ruined the projector for like, they had, the guy was so pissed off. And one of my other things was a music video for this Naked Ray Gun band, Naked Ray Gun. I did this like Peacemaker song with it. And I ended up having this 22 gun, but I put blanks in, and one of the shots was I had the guy go right at the lens.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize
the trajectory from a blank.
Well, I didn't realize how close it was, and the powder from the blank basically sandblasted the lens and ruined the lens, where you just couldn't focus it. If you were like, but so the thing was this.
This is film school. This is where you learn these things.
Well, this is where they learn not to give me the camera, but I denied it, right? So I turn it in. The guy goes, what's up with this lens, right? And he's like the professor, and he's like, what the hell? And I go, I don't know, man. That's the way I got it. And he goes, what? He goes, that's so weird. He's like, I'm gonna have to replace this. It's gonna cost us money. Cut to the finals, and I'm rolling my video, and the guy holds up the gun on the boom and right in the lens, and I just see the professor going, what do you mean you don't know? You know, like he's totally busted, but it's like too late. But it affected my grade. I think he gave me a B. He refused to give me an A. My work was A work, but everyone else was doing like this Jim O'Connor, San Francisco,
serious stuff,
documentary stuff, black and white documentary, montagey kind of stuff. The David Byrne Talking Heads crap, was like the stuff that everyone was doing. Artsy, it was art, and this guy was a San Francisco artist, and he wanted this to be oh, it's got to be about society and it's got to have a point, and you're making porn and a guy, you know what I mean? It's like,
which does have a point in it.
But my stuff was good. It was fan favorite, but I didn't get the grade. But either way, they did write a letter of recommendation. I worked with Dan Rather, and the best part, this was at the outbreak of Operation Desert Storm.
Okay.
And Operation Desert Storm, I'm working in the war room. I'm working in the newsroom with raw footage coming in. So it was my first thing. I knew that, it's a propaganda machine. I knew all this. Everyone knows. But I didn't realize how much thought and how much control a government has in the footage, overseeing. There was a Pentagon official in the newsroom, overseeing what footage can air, what can't air, what's classified, stuff like that.
That freedom of the press is
and how to make us look like we're not completely blowing up a bunch of people, like no dead bodies on air and stuff. But and Dan Rather would bring me in his office, and he would clip this cigar with the cigar clipper, and I'd sit on the floor actually, and he would expound about what it is to be a journalist and journalism and integrity and all that. And I'm looking right through him. I'm just looking at how he's smoking a cigar, because I'm like, dude, I don't want to be a news guy. I'm not going to be on air going like I'm reporting from the White House. You don't know who I am. I just took this because it was my in to be in the what they call. I remember there was a CBS building was called like the Black Rock. I don't remember what it was called. It had a name. Somebody will know listening. But in that building was everything. There's As the World Turns. There's all the other TV shows were shot in New York. It was a big studio. So it was my chance to just walk around the building every day and goof off and meet other people and network. But the thing about Operation Desert Storm was they were sitting there, I'm watching the news, I'm in the newsroom, and the beginning of the war, they had a logo. And it was these timpani drums, boom, 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 Operation Desert Storm. And these two airplanes, graphic airplanes would come in, jet fighters would come in and kind of veer off like it was Monday Night Football kind of graphics. And it was this like metal lettering, Operation Desert Storm. And I was like, this is the first war that has like a logo that has like a, like it's like an action movie, like Rambo. I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, who did that? And they go, oh, that's Steve in graphics. I go, that's hilarious. Right. And I got to go meet that guy. And then I went down to this guy, Steve in graphics. I'm like, what's up, dude? And I go, I just want to say, I love your logo, dude. It cracked me up. I go, that's first war. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? And he's like, they passed it through. And I was like, and he goes, so what do you do? And, oh, I'm a comedian and this and that. I'm working with Dan. He goes, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah. I go, my real goal is to work on Saturday Night Live. And he goes, oh, well, see, I'm in the right to be an artist, the graphic artist. They were a part of the Writers Guild. Writers Guild East. Okay. And at that time, the president of the Writers Guild East was this guy named Herb Sargent, who was the head of Weekend Update since 1976. He was one of the top guys at Saturday Night Live. Yeah. And he's like, Herb's like my best friend. I'll make a phone call. You can go, talk to him about getting a job over there. And go, oh, this is great. And so then, 2 weeks later, he's like, yeah, Herb wants you to come in for an interview. So I went into Saturday Night Live, and I'm sitting in the room, and it's not just me. It's me with like maybe one girl and 3 other guys. And they're all from Harvard. And they're all dressed in suits in the blue, like the khakis with the navy blue thing and the red and blue. They look like pages, what I'm saying? They're very preppy. And I was at the time, I'm from a punk rock background. So, at that time, was like Nirvana, was grunge, Dinosaur Jr., Mudhoney, that kind of crowd. So I was like in dirty jeans, a flannel, I think I had a Santa Cruz hand shirt,
of course, the hand with the mouth
thing, all shredded up, and a baseball cap. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not dressed right for this at all. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm going to go in. And obviously he wants someone that is fun to be with. The job I was interviewing for, just to let you know, was it was a creative job, but it was similar to what Steve does. It was to work on Weekend Update to basically oversee all the graphics and all the pictures that Dennis Miller.
They go up on the board. Yeah.
And so it was a grunt job because this was pre-internet. And so in order for me to go get Dan Quayle with a golf club, I had to go to AP. I had to call. I had to order the number and then take a cab or a bike down or run down, depending on what time of the day it was and when they need the pictures. I had to physically go and get black and white stills that were on count, and then we'd come back and we'd shoot them off of the camera, off the thing, and then and a lot of it wouldn't get. You'd have no idea how much material we generated that didn't get used. So how much effort went into me getting all this stuff together graphically that was just like, nah, we're not doing that joke. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean?
So you did get the job.
Yeah, I got the job, and the reason I got the job was, one, it was he could tell I was funny, and it is a comedy job. I don't know if the other people are funny or not. That most of the people that do work at Saturday Night Live are from Harvard and Harvard Lampoon, so they're very funny, smart people. But it was really how I was dressed. He said, he's like, you look like a guy that won't quit. You look like a guy I can piss on and take a shit on, and you won't quit. And I go, no, I won't. And he goes, there's other people out there. Look how they're dressed. He goes, I don't know if they could deal with this, but you look like you have already worked here for a month, because that's how you're going to look after a couple weeks here anyway. Yeah. So he's like, you're perfect, So I got the job because I was dressed like a snob.
So judging a book by the cover pays off sometimes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So tell me this.
So then from
there, did you ever quit?
I quit. Only because I got a job, another job. So while I was at Saturday Night Live, the freshman cast at that time was Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, David Spade, Rob.
The golden years, man.
Yeah, Rob Schneider and Chris Rock were first year talent. And I worked the first year. Dennis Miller left. I worked Kevin Nealon's first year. Oh, maybe God. First and last. I don't know how many times he did it. And so this was 91, I think, 91. And basically, Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, they took me out. They knew I wanted to be a performer. And they were like, okay, well, look, you can do 5 minutes in front of us at these comedy clubs in New York. I'm going to go out tonight and do, I'm doing a show. I'll put you up on stage. And so I would do that. And I went up, and I really didn't have material, but I had material. But my material stuff was me playing characters and doing like fake commercials and, my pillow spoof, even though it wasn't my pillow at the time, but whatever it was, And like I had a whole Schoolhouse Rock bit, with I'm Just a Bill, that kind of stuff. And so I came back, I bombed. And you know what? Every stand-up comedian, your first, second, it takes time. I didn't have the patience to find the voice, the legs, the routine. And honestly, I probably would have if there was no other alternative, but I went back. And the reason I bring up those guys is because as first year talent, they were all in a room about half this size. That was their office, like a couple couches, small room, all 5 of those dudes, which ended up being very iconic guys. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that goes to say why Adam was very, with Rob Schneider and David Spade, and would be today with Chris Farley, why he still has them. Right. All because really, it was a clubhouse in that thing. Bond. That was their club. It was almost like I was like the only non-guy that was even allowed in there with them. You know what I mean? Like in the hangout room.
Did you get along with those guys?
Huh?
Did you get along with those guys?
Yeah. I still, if I see Adam, we're very friendly.
That's awesome.
Rob Schneider would be the only guy I didn't get along with. He, and today if I saw him, and I've never re-met him again since then, I would be fine. Yeah. At the time, since I was like a peon, he
abused it.
Yes. Yeah. He sort of like he took executive privilege a little bit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Making me get a soda or whatever it is, and just was not as polite.
Right.
But I don't blame him, because now I've been on the other side and I'm serious about my work, and I'm sure that there's people that walk off going, well, that guy, man, he just said, can I get this? Can you take this thing up? Can you put this fake mustache? What's up with this scar? Or whatever they,
Yeah, I don't know, man.
You've worked with me.
But the thing is what
I'm decent to work with, right?
Super polite and very particular. I know you want it to be right.
Yes, and that particular side, some people can take that.
I respect it because, so if you are concerned whether your hair is grown out or not, and you need me to cut it, or if you need your tattoos to look perfect because they're, I would prefer to be notified. Right. Then it went past me because I was thinking about 20 other things. Right. So for you to say, hey, man, does this look right? Right. I don't take offense to that. I think, hey, thanks for helping me out.
There was one instance I made this guy cry and quit on one of my first. I definitely was, I would say, a jerk on this movie, Frank McCluskey, because that was my starring movie. It was my big chance at Disney. And there was one instance with the wardrobe guy where I was wearing I had these floods. And the floods were off though too.
Right.
So it was like 1 inch difference. But you wear multiple pants. And one time I put them on and they weren't flooded enough and they weren't off. And I was like, dude, what the, we're gonna take it.
It's not right.
You gotta fix this. And he's like, it's not gonna be on screen. You're gonna be shooting. Most of the time, you never saw the bottom of the feet.
Right.
And what he didn't connect, and what I wasn't connecting on the same page was it wasn't about, like you was talking about.
It wasn't about them seeing it.
Right.
It was about you.
Me.
It's about you.
It's about me and the character and me walking around and being in whatever I have to do. So when I was like, the neck tattoos, they don't look good. You might say, we're not shooting from that side, or in this light, it's not going to read, but it's me walking in and being on set and being the character, knowing that this is crumbling off. You know what I mean? I'm trying to deliver my lines, but I can't let that go.
I can tell you that as earlier in my career, it would have infuriated me, and I would have been like, we're not seeing it. It doesn't matter. This is movies. It's magic. Later, now I've been doing this for a long time. I've worked with some really awesome people, and I've learned from that. The makeups put people in character. Those tattoos made you a badass, and you look like a mean motherfucker in that movie, and you're not a mean motherfucker. So if you see crumbly fakeness while you're delivering lines, you're going to lose that you were very serious in that role. There's humor to it, but it was very much like that overlord drug guy. You don't want to mess with this guy, and for you to, for you to become that with the I remember we had to switch out your pants once. Remember this?
Yeah, we had different
and they
pants.
were slightly different.
They were.
And that really kind of messed with you for a minute. Like you're like, well, these are these too tight, or is this different? Like
right.
And I saw you adjust to it, and then by like the third day, it didn't seem to matter.
Right.
But
I gave up.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I did go back.
But anyway, what
but
took
really
you
quick.
from...
So I'll tell you. So I was back hanging out, and we're all talking about the show the night before. Chris Rock was like, what you need to do is this. Give me some notes. And Farley was like, well, what's your bit? What do you do? And I was like, oh, I do these characters and voices. And he goes, sounds to me like you need to go to Second City, because that's where Chris Farley was from.
That's what I was about to ask. Have you ever done Second City?
Yeah. So basically, I was like, I didn't know anything about it. I knew SCTV.
Yeah.
And I knew that people were from Second City, but I didn't know what Second City was. I didn't know what improv was, and I certainly didn't know how Second City does these sort of basically Saturday Night Live shows.
Live.
Live, and it's improv. Although the show itself, there's completely improv scenes inside the show. And then there's always room to change sketches inside the show. But the sketches are rehearsed and written, like the staple sketches of a show.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, when I was there, one of the last show I did there was called Pinata Full of Bees. And that was with Adam McKay and, Amy Sedaris and Steve Carell and Steve Colbert and a lot of big people. And I co-directed that with them, with Tom Giannis. And, did I say Steve Colbert? Yeah. Steve Colbert too, right? Yeah. It's crazy how many people came off that stage.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that in a minute, because there's ebbs and flows coming out of Second City. And if you go back to the 30 year when I was there, the people that was there in the room with me are some of the biggest names today still. What I mean?
When you were there,
and that is different than when I was going there. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi it was only 20 years.
Right.
That was only less than 20 years. They were there in 73, 74. I was there in 91. It was like 17 years, although it seemed like a lifetime to me.
Yeah.
But then by the year 2000, most of those people were not players in society of the studio system anymore. If you look at 30 years now, the people like Steve Carell and Steve Colbert and some of these Tina Fey and some of these people, they're magnets in that. Adam McKay just won an Academy Award, I think, or maybe he was nominated, but he's doing phenomenal. He's got the difference was that these people went on to build big companies, whereas like Belushi just did a lot of drugs and died. And Bill Murray just wanted to play golf and be an actor. He wasn't like, I'm going to own buildings.
He wasn't building the brand as much.
Right.
So here's my question.
So Chris Farley made a phone call. I'm going to call the woman's name is Joyce Sloan. And Joyce Sloan was the matriarch, executive producer at Second City. It was like one of the founding people with Alan Arkin
there,
and Alan Alda. It was Joyce Sloan.
Was there somebody there with the last name Forsberg? Do you remember?
I don't.
Because so I work for a horror director named Eric Forsberg a lot, and his mom supposedly built Second City.
Okay.
And maybe she's Joyce Sloan. I don't know her name. She's passed away now, and I know he has all her archeves. But
it's got to be Joyce then, yeah.
Yeah, so that must be her son. Her son is
Is his sister Cheryl? Cheryl Sloan's her daughter.
I believe that might be. No, why would his name be Forsberg then?
I don't know.
I'd have to research this. But I've done some movies for him, won some awards. He's an awesome guy, but he has Second City stories forever.
But if he's saying it's his mom, she's the only female.
It must be Joyce.
Bernie saw
and maybe he has a different dad or something. I don't know. I don't know why that's his
he might have just changed it too.
Yeah, I don't know.
But either way, here's what's funny was he made the phone call, and she was like, "Oh, okay, Chris, he's hired. Send him my way." You know, because he's like, "This guy's funny. You're gonna love him." Blah blah blah. So then I packed up and I went to Chicago. I didn't know anybody in Chicago, but I was like, yeah, because you had.
Is that when you left Saturday Night Live?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I was there for one season, and it was questionable whether I was gonna come back. I probably could have come back, but it was also the thing was again, I wasn't a creative.
Right.
I was submitting jokes. I was submitting jokes to the news, but I saw career-wise, if I stayed there, probably would have been great. I probably would be I'd have a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot more money, but I'd also be spending a lot more money in New York.
Right.
But I probably could have stayed there on a crew level, worked my way up because there are people there work a long time on that in that side, the behind the scenes sides, the directors, the producers, and they work a long time. They go through cast quick, you know, or cast rolls over, and writers get burned out and roll over and move on. But the job that I had with the art director guy, Smook, and some of these people. They were there from 1975, like Herb Sargent, there from 1975. Jim O'Donnell, like, you know, the head writer guy, was there for a long time. Dave Wilson, the director, was there from 75. I worked with his son, Tom Wilson and Dan Wilson. It's very, you know, no, they were from Morristown, by the way. All of them were from Morristown. Because at the time, like I told you, I was in Patterson, New Jersey. Yeah. So Tom would pick me up at Willowbrook Mall. And then we would carpool into Saturday Night Live.
That's
and then
funny.
We would carpool out. So, and sometimes I would take the bus and go to Port Authority. It depends on what our schedules were. But most of the time, especially if it was the after hours part, I could never get public transportation back in New Jersey. Yeah. So if we're leaving at 3, Tom was the guy who always dropped me off at my car. Because that's why I did Willowbrook, because that's where the bus, there was a parking ride too. So it worked either way. But long story short, I went there and it was a weird timing. What happened was I literally showed up, went to Joyce's office. She, you know, hey, you're going to do this, and here's where you're going to start performing. You're going to work your way up. And then she got canned like that week. Wow. But she didn't get canned because she was a founder. She was embedded in things. She kept her office. She became producer emeritus or whatever the word was.
That must be Eric's mom.
And this, because the guy up in Second City, Toronto, Andrew Alexander, who was a cab driver, worked his way up. He worked his way up at Second City in Toronto, you know, washing dishes, doing whatever he did. But he ended up buying Second City in Toronto and then ended up taking it over in Chicago until he owned all of Second City. So he's a smart but a ruthless guy in a weird way. He was very into the corporate thing because the switch was happening at Second City right when we were leaving, where they were doing Second City Business Theater, and they were getting Motorola and whatever, and it was all corporate gigs, and they were doing like industrials, you know, like training videos that were comedically things, but like that was a moneymaker versus the theater. So all of a sudden, this section of Second City, and they busted out a wall and made a whole nother production office for, you know, we're working corporate stuff. Yeah. And a lot of the Puritans of Second City were like, we're
artists.
We're counterculture. Yeah. We're not servicing corporations with you know, bubblegum humor. We're, you know, it's sort of like
it's a little bluer.
Yeah, it was like what they do on Saturday Night Live. We're skewing topical stuff. We're skewing political stuff, you know, and it didn't work with on the corporate side, but they were making more money, so you could see the shit. But I was Joyce's last hire. I was Joyce Sloan's last hire, and because I was Joyce's last favorite person, so she was really into big men though. Like John Belushi was someone else she discovered. She discovered John Belushi. He was performing. They had a tour co, and I did tour co, and I remember I think it was Willamette University. I forget the name of the thing because I didn't know we were going to be talking about all this.
Yeah.
But she went out. The tour co went out to a college, and they go, yeah, actually, we're not going to book you. We're going to book you next time. She goes, why not? So they were like, yeah, because there's a guy here, a student, he's memorized all your stuff, and he's already putting on. He goes and sees your shows, and he puts on everything here. And she goes, who's that? And you got to see him. He's everyone loves him. It's John Belushi. So he was going into Second City, seeing their shows, and then basically putting the shows on himself.
Yeah.
And he undercut.
And that's how
then
she
getting paid to do.
him.
Yeah, and she's like, hey, why don't you just come work for us? So, and then Mike Haggerty, if you look him up, he's another big guy, another one of my favorites, So she liked big guys because she liked, for some reason, she liked the big comedian. And I was the scrawny, it didn't make any sense. Like I was her last favorite guy, you know what I mean? But also it was, I did a lot of I helped her because she was older in her career. At least she was older too. The reason they pushed her out is because she had a heart attack a little previous before that. And so it was more like, hey, let's
take it easy.
Take it easy. Yeah. It's time to retire.
Yeah.
It was sort of a retirement time.
Yeah.
So, but again, I had nobody, no money, so I stayed on it. I slept on a couch at Second City for a while.
Right,
and she would dress me. She had a thrift store that I would go to and work at on Saturdays. And she'd go, take on any clothes you want. Cause I had like no clothes and stuff. And then she'd feed me and buy me groceries and give me her car. It was a very nice woman, man.
That's awesome.
A big part of, she didn't make any she didn't say, I'm going to call Bill Murray and get you a job.
Right.
She
but
supported
she gave
me.
you opportunity.
She supported me with food.
Yeah.
Which is,
Just
food and shelter is just as much.
Yeah.
For somebody at my stage. So that's what happened. Yeah.
What brought you? At what point did you move out west to LA? And then when do you feel you got your break or had?
Yeah, that was the break at Second City. So at Second City, you're performing on stage, and there was a guy named was it Joe Liss? I can't remember who I saw do this first. Somebody went and did a multimedia show, and I can't remember who it was. And I think it was Joe Liss, who's also from Second City. And I was like, oh, I'd like to do that because remember I do characters and I was a filmmaker. So this was live theater, but Joe had TVs
projectors
installed
stuff,
for his show, and they kept them there. And I was like, wait a second, I'm going to go out and do a one-man show. Like he did a one-man show. So it was called Second City ETC. It was connected to the main stage, and they gave me a show. They said, here's your own show. I went to Andrew and had to present what I'm going to do. This is going to be my show. Great, go and do it. And so I went back. I took a month and a half off, and I went to New York. Came back home with a video camera, and I went to William Patterson and borrowed their film equipment, and I shot the video stuff. I couldn't get in Chicago, but I wanted the show to really transport people. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to go shoot the stuff in Delaware, in New Jersey, at the beach in New Jersey. I'm going to shoot the stuff in Manhattan. I want, when it goes to videos, I want them to be transported to not like, oh, you're right here in Chicago. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so what I did was I did these characters in public, and we just basically, I embedded myself into these storylines in public. So like by the Port Authority, like Times Square at the time in the early 90s was still a shit. It was a crap hole. Lots of, drugs, strip joints, drugs, hookers. And so I did a transvestite character, and basically I walked around as a transvestite, and, guys petitioned me, and, we shot a scene where I'm blowing a dude in a car, and then I'm smoking crack on this thing. And then it comes back, and that character was like a open night poetry. Like I did like on stage. So what you
so you were visually seeing the poem.
Yeah, what you would see is you would see a vignette of me in reality as this character, a day in the life, which would tell you a lot about who the character is. And then on stage, I would come out, and now you're in the you're in the poetry jam for me to do my poem. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was, my performance. And then then when it would go to another video, then I could go backstage and get out of the makeup and the glasses and whatever, the fake mustache and all this stuff, and get into the next character and come back out.
While the video was going.
Right. And that's the way it could kind of be seamless as a one-man thing. And but these videos were like basically early Borat, what Borat did, what Sacha Baron Cohen did.
Yeah.
I was the character. Like, there was one where I went to Bel Air at the beach, and I'm in this G-string, and I had this fanny pack full of oils, and I was just going up to chicks without even asking them and just rubbing them down. I was like, rubbing my crotch on their back, and they're like, what the hell, right? Hey, baby, come on, it's the Bob man. Like, it was just funny stuff like that. And then I worked at when I was living in Patterson shooting that stuff, I rented a room above a chicken factory where they would kill chickens. Right? It stunk so bad. It was dirt cheap. Yeah. But the fans, the smell of the poultry over my thing. But it was like, hey, man, I suffered for my art, Yeah. But they let me come down and shoot that I was a guy that worked at a chicken factory, and I slit chicken necks and killed chickens and all this stuff, And then I came out, and that you see that, and then actually that one, by the way, you see that, and then it played again when I came out. Sometimes the videos would play while I was talking. That one was like I was actually a scoutmaster at a campfire, and that wasn't a character that existed. It was me telling like a urban legend horror story about these chickens that came back to haunt this guy that killed the chickens. So I was lit on stage by this like fake campfire thing, telling the kids, So it was fun stuff. But so what happens at Second City of those theaters, New York comes through, NBC, Saturday Night Live. How these people get on Saturday Night Live is Lorne Michaels and Marcy Klein, who was Calvin Klein's daughter, whoever it was, Rob Schmeigel. They would come through. They would see shows and they would say, I want that guy to audition. I want this guy to audition. Let's meet this person. So they were talent scout, and everybody was doing it. So like Conan O'Brien came through. He was starting his new show. He's looking for performance writers, and MTV came through as well. And they were shooting Austin Stories. Do you remember that show, Austin Stories?
Yeah.
They were looking to cast Austin Stories. So they came through looking to cast people, and they saw my show, and I had an interview. Jim, I forget the guy's name, Jim somebody, and Lisa Berger was the executive that came from, and Jim Sharp, who later on went to Comedy Central. They came through, and I got an interview. And they loved my videos, and I wasn't right for Austin Stories. They weren't even interested. They were just more.
They just want to talk to you.
They saw my videos, and they go, "Have you ever thought of doing a show? Like, what can we do with you? Can we create a show with you?" And they basically said, "We want to offer you a development deal. Come to MTV. 1 year. We'll pay you for a year. You'll have an office, and you'll develop a show, in-house, and we'll see if we can shoot a pilot. Nothing might happen. If anything, you're working a year." And they said, "You can come to New York, or you can go to LA." Right? And that was a big thing. In hindsight, it might have been probably more beneficial to go back to New York, because it would have put me back closer to Saturday Night Live, and also Comedy Central at the time. The stronger aspects of Comedy Central was in New York. Yeah. But I was already in New York, and I was like, this is my ticket to LA. So so the difference was MTV was a satellite office in LA. It wasn't broad. It
wasn't their main headquarters.
The main stuff was there.
Still today.
Exactly, where they did the TRL and all that stuff. So in a weird sense, I got to do what I was running the halls. Nickelodeon. We shared it with Nickelodeon is what it was, and part of VH1. But it was mostly Nickelodeon. I was on the floor with Nickelodeon, but I was like, who is this guy in this room trying to create a show? And so I did. The show I created was called Buzzkill. And it was like a hidden camera prank show on MTV that basically they didn't want me just to do the characters. They're like, oh, you're doing characters in public. But, and harken back to the Bob, it was called Bob Man, the guy on the beach rubbing the thing, getting the reactions. That's the one they kept coming back to, going like, oh, that's great. Like, we want to see reactions from our viewers. Like, it made sense. MTV wanted, okay, how do we go? And
you see so much.
We prank MTV like demographic people.
Yeah.
Our pilot was us going to spring break.
Yeah.
And doing stuff at spring break. Because remember, they used to have the spring break shows.
Oh, of course.
So we shot our pilot at spring break, and then we edited it like in 3 weeks, so it actually aired on their spring break special. And that was an undertaking to put a whole show together that quick.
Yeah.
In terms of the post, when it comes to hidden camera. There's a lot of editing that goes on. But so they were really stuck on, it has to be pranks.
Right.
We want versus me doing these vignettes of the characters. I felt it was limited, because we started running out of like, oh, what are we doing? It's a prank. I got tons of characters, I got tons of funny settings, but how do we
Prank 'em.
you know, exactly. But from there, after we did ours, we ended up getting fired. We broke too many rules. The MTV legal, which was also, and it had a lot to do with us being in LA, not New York. Everything was in New York. All the legal was in New York. Tom Freston was in New York.
So they didn't know you. They didn't have your back.
They didn't know who I was. They didn't know that I was actually a guy that was a hard worker,
Right.
who wasn't crazy.
No, they just saw the pranks.
They only saw that, and they
Yeah.
got word back of the stuff that went bad.
Yeah.
How many times we got shut down? How many times the police got called?
Yeah.
How many times the two nails in the coffin? Because there was multiple stuff, but the nails in the coffin were, we did this one bit called Meat Shake in Dallas, Texas. No, never aired. Never aired.
Then you told me about this. On
Yeah,
Killer
the other
Rose.
meat. Dallas did air, but Meat Shake didn't air. Meat Shake was basically the guy at the end of an aisle at a supermarket with blenders and raw meat.
You told me
and
about this on
blending
Killer
it
Rose.
up and doing, you know, hey,
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
like to try Meat Shake? We're like, of course. Would you? No, right? Nobody's going to try Meat Shake.
But they did.
No, we had an actor. I had another actor that was ready to come on. And I had to go to the bathroom. I've been drinking meat shakes all day. So I'm like, you're the guy that's not going to do the meat shake.
Right.
You're just shopping. Like, no, I don't want to. And I go, hey, look, can you do me a favor? Can you just watch my stand and make sure no one, I got to take a piss. I've been doing this all day. So I left. He's running, he's just standing there. And then our actor comes in who's real interested in Meat Shake. And he goes, what is this? Tell me about it. And the guy would, at that point, he's like, I don't really know. It's Meat Shake. It's thing. It's, oh, okay. And then he drinks a couple of Meat Shakes. He's like, this is great. But then he starts choking, right? And he starts coughing up the Meat Shake and violently down on the ground and doing all this stuff. And then our other actor, Travis, was a doctor in scrubs, like just, oh, I'm a doctor. It's okay. You know, and the idea was to get them, he was doing the compressions on the chest, to get Tom, who's just an innocent bystander, to give
Him mouth to
mouth with all the meat stuff coming down and go, "Whoa, whoa," and he's like, do the mouth, three breaths now. And he's like, what? And it was early cell phones. This was 1995. Who knew? I didn't even know about cell phones. No one had cell phones. This was a brick. And the guy that was watching goes, we'll call an ambulance. Called 911. Ambulance came, police came, and the manager at the store who let us, that was like, this is not what I signed up for, and you guys can't air this. And, you know, we went back to the hotel and they had to call, you know, MTV, hey, we're going home, guys. We're going home. We're not, and that was the last on the road, because we used to travel around. They go, we've got 3 more episodes of season 2. We're going to shoot the rest here in LA. And they just like mailed them in real safe. But we were allowed to go to the MTV Music Video Awards. And at the time, Whitney Houston was #1. She was the top dog.
Yeah.
And Frank from Buzzkill was a dead ringer for this fashion designer named Isaac Mizrahi.
The South Beach area of Miami is home to glamorous models and fashion designers. Frank happens to bear an uncanny resemblance to designer Isaac Mizrahi, star of the movie Unzipped, a model situation for our final Buzzkill. Travis has a cousin who knows a guy, Ronnie, who works for a limo service.
So, and Isaac Mizrahi had a documentary called Unzipped or something like that. And so we were pretending we were there with Isaac shooting a follow-up documentary called Buttoned Up. And it was just him in the green room with Shaq and Jamie Lee Curtis, David Spade, all these people. And he would be talking about Shaq's like, oh, I don't like this, and tighten this up and do that, you know.
He was changing the clothing.
Yeah, we were seeing if we could change what people would do. Like, hey, put the collar up. That's good. Let me, you know. Oh, okay, great. And then they said, you can fuck with anyone, just not Whitney. Don't go near Whitney. Don't go near. Now, here's the thing. At this thing, now the president's there, Tom Preston. Now Van Toffler's there. Now, you know, Sumner Redstone. This is MTV had ball. This was when MTV was big.
MTV, yeah.
Right?
Headbangers
Now
all
it's
the time.
like my kids don't even
Yeah.
know what MTV is.
Yeah.
And basically they said, whatever you do, don't go near Whitney. She won't be in the green room, so don't worry about it. You stay in this area. And next thing you know, her best friend, and I guess was her lesbian lover, I don't know, like this, the best friend of her, long time ago, just came up and said, oh my God, Whitney heard you were here, to Isaac.
She wants to meet.
She wants to meet you.
Oh, wow.
She got your dresses. She just wants to thank you so much. He gave her dresses or something like that, the real Isaac. And she's like, she wants to meet you and thank you in person. And and Isaac, come to her dressing room. And they're like, can't go. And she goes, he's like, I'm not allowed to leave here because we're shooting and and she, and she was like, all right, I'll bring her here. So it's like, so now it's even worse because she was the closing act and was like, I'm not going in the green room. Isaac's making you come to her. So she's already a little perturbed that Isaac's making Whitney Houston come to him in front of a bunch of people where she's like, wants to be secluded in her own world right now before her performance. And then she came up and, it was like, don't go near her, right? We had things in our earbuds, right? Okay, so here's the thing, and you can't visually see this. We were saying, don't go near her. So she was like, Isaac, and he's like, Whitney, and she's like, Isaac, Whitney, and he's backing up, and she's kind of chasing him around the room, and like he's like, and then they finally got together. She came out and we walked away, and then somebody went, that's not really Isaac, and then and then they took our things. We showed up in a limo to walk the red carpet of the MTV. They sent us home because it was a Universal City. We rode the tram with like regular tourists back in stupid outfits. And then we were fine. It's like, give me some tapes. We were wearing hidden cameras and stuff. You guys are done. You don't even come back to MTV. Like that was it. We got fired on the cameras. Like I'm Van Toffer, I'm sorry. Listen, your show's done. We told you not to. On tape. Didn't know I was rolling. So they wanted to take, they took the cameras that they saw, but they didn't take these. So I go, you still rolling your show? I went home, I dubbed the tapes, right? And then they called me, you come back in now, we need those tapes, here's the tapes. And you didn't make any copies. I didn't make any copies. For years, I'm sitting on this stuff. Finally, if you guys go out and Google this,
it's going to be on the podcast.
It's somewhere on YouTube.
We will have
I have seen it
over your story.
The footage is released. You know what I mean? And people might go, why is Buzzkill? I can't get any episodes of Buzzkill. I can't get. You know that? But you're not going to get it because what happened was when I went back in, when they said don't come back in, we were at this. We were on Universal. It's a big. It was called the Texaco building at the time. Yeah. Now it's called I think it's Universal. I don't know. It's a big with the top floor. The tram takes you down to the bottom. You know where the sign is.
Yeah, I know right where you're talking about.
I went right up in the office, and I went into the editor Dave's closet, and all of the D1 tapes. So this is all the masters of Buzzkill. So, I don't know. I took them all. I called the end to go. It took them like 3 weeks to find out everything was gone, and they go, "Do you have those? Where are those at?" I go, "I don't know anything, man." And
the statute of limitations, right?
I have the show. I have the show. And people are like, why you put it on thing? And I go, you know what? It doesn't hold up. I'd rather have people's memories, but at the same time, I like the fact that it's not out there when we're in an age that
everything
your
is
asshole in
everything
5 different camera angles are out there. You know what I'm saying? And I've got something that can't be released. Screw it.
All right, we're going to come right back with Dave. We got to go do a signing at the Monster Museum, but we'll talk to you guys in a minute. All right, we're back here with Dave Sheridan and Tom at the Midnight at the Monster Museum podcast.
Wait, who's Tom?
Me.
You're back with yourself?
I'm back.
What the heck?
You know what?
What number podcast is this?
4.
4. Yeah, you'll learn.
All right.
You'll learn.
We're on number 4.
What's up, America?
Hey,
it's Dave Sheridan here, and I'm back with Tom Devlin.
So, Dave, you do a podcast.
Dean Devlin's brother.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, you do one?
Maybe once every 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before, I don't want to...
He's been texting me. I got to do something soon. It's been a couple months.
Well, I don't want to talk about your podcast.
Everyone should really go to my podcast right now. Go ahead.
So, but I do want to talk about... We briefly spoke about you getting in bringing Buzzkill to L.A.
Yes.
And let's talk about what happened next. What happened in L.A.? What came after Buzzkill, and was it because of Buzzkill?
Oh, well, no, it was more because of everything else that transpired over the next 5 years or 6 years. All really came out of that one-man show that I did at the Second City.
On set, when we were on Killer Rose, you told me an awesome story about Demolition Derby and Weinstein's.
That's right.
And like a movie that never happened that would have
Right.
probably been one of my favorite movies.
Right. And that's that clip I sent you
Yeah.
on the thing.
Yeah.
So to back it up, like I said, I was at Second City. Then I went back east. I shot a series of films, short films, where I played characters in public that kind of told, it had linear narratives, and I would continue that linear narrative out on stage. Then when that was done, I would go backstage and change back into another character, and the audience would get to watch the beginning part of as I changed. And MTV came through. They liked that. They interviewed me. They said, let's create a show around you playing these characters, or you and characters in public. We really like that. We like the reaction of the guy rubbing suntan lotion on the girls. And that is how Buzzkill came about, to be more of a prank-oriented thing, but with our characters. And that was canned at the end of 2 seasons.
What year is this? 2000
No,
or not? 97.
95.
95. Okay.
Yeah, 95. And 95 into 96.
Okay.
And maybe 94 and 95, 6. It was we did like 22 episodes.
This is when I thought I was going to be a pro snowboarder and not a makeup effects guy.
There you go.
Yeah. Long time
Right.
ago.
Yeah, easy. It's pretty good though.
It's weird.
Could have did it.
I was
Shouldn't have
close.
came up.
I
Yeah.
thought I was.
There really probably wasn't much into being a pro snowboarder back
Not
then.
at the
though.
time. Not at
Right.
the time. If you could spin some 540s or 360 and do
Right.
maybe a rudimentary flip, you were good, man.
Yeah, I know, but you also, there wasn't money.
No, I mean,
could you
we
make
used
a lot
to-
of money. No.
No.
Right.
No. Well, it was the birth of the X Games.
Right.
95 was the birth of the X Games. So it was starting to pick up money big time. Anyway, this podcast is not about snowboarding, but
So then the final episode of Buzzkill, didn't we record some of that stuff?
yeah.
Okay, so you already had that.
We
We got
got some-
canned. I got canned. We went back on a tram ride. While I was at MTV, though, in that 2-year period, Beavis and Butthead was also on.
Okay.
And so I got to meet Mike Judge, and Mike Judge liked the videos from
The one-man show.
the one-man show. And Mike is from Austin, and he's friends with Richard Linklater. And he showed them the Richard Linklater, and Richard liked them. And then Mike's also in the art world, being a cartoonist and stuff. And so he knew, he was a big Crumb fan and
I
big
love Art
underground
Crumb.
comic
Yeah.
fan. So he knew Terry Zwigoff and Dan Klaus through that. And so we had a meeting, and they said, we really like this Stewart character, this guy with the nunchucks in this video from my Second City show. And what do you want to do with that? And I said, I have this feature film idea. And really it's about a 10-minute short that I already made. And it was just a larger continuation of what the short was about, where that guy's walking around, he's going around town looking for this chick, Becky. And it's just me as that character. And like I said, it's all in reality. And it's just me pulling up to a drive-through, at a Taco Bell, claiming Becky works there. And I'm like, I need to talk to Becky. Where's Becky?
And not scripted. And
The person on the other end's like, who?
Yeah.
I'm like, Becky, don't play this game with me. Put Becky on now. And they're like, can you please drive around? And then I come around and go, where's Becky? She goes, I don't know. There is no Becky that works here. I was like, bull crap, there's Becky there. And she goes, she got off today. She's off today. She just wanted to get me out. People would play along. They'd be like, I don't know where Becky, and then whatever, I'd go down Main Street where it was a cruising night and be like, oh, hey. And I'd be like, where's Becky? To just a group of people like, I hadn't seen her. There was no Becky,
Right.
but it was just this idiot looking for Becky.
That's
you know what I mean?
and so if you would shoot any of that, did you go back?
I did shoot it all.
Did you go back and say, hey, you got to sign this release?
No, no,
So
no, because it was for a theater show and I could care less.
yeah, they were never going to see. You're going from LA back to Chicago anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't for TV, and I don't really believe in that stuff anyway. I mean,
That's fine.
I would just lie and say I did have people sign. Screw it.
That's awesome.
I've already done that multiple times. I think the only time someone's going to come after you is if you punch them in the face and knock some teeth out, and they're like, I know how to get a hold of that guy now.
Yeah.
I'm on TV, and he didn't get my permission. Now I got a lawsuit to get my teeth back. But so we started developing. They took me into the Weinstein Company, and which was Dimension Films at the time, and it's Bob Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein, and got me a deal to
Dust
write.
Long days.
Yeah, so the deal was Terry was going to direct it. Mike Judge and Richard were the producers, and I was writing it.
Were you a fan of Richard Linklater at all?
I wasn't not a fan.
Had you seen
Dazed and Confused
and Slacker?
Yes, yeah.
Man, when I saw Slacker for the first time, it changed me. I was like, wow, this is a movie about absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point that indie film was a thing. Like I'm younger than you, so I was a kid.
Right.
But it blew my mind that, and then I remember seeing Roger Corman's Suburbia as well and being like, this is just a movie about people. You know, it was weird. It had no story to me, and kind of like I still have it on Laserdisc, but it was one of those I've never claimed it to be an important film in my life, but it was that first time that I was like, wow, this movie's not about anything.
I would have to say I don't think I've ever seen Clerks.
No?
Even though that was made in New Jersey.
Yeah, Clerks is awesome.
Living in New Jersey.
So Clerks, on another note of like Slacker.
I don't think I could see Clerks because it was too close to like, here's another filmmaker.
I realized that, and I guess that's because that was about the same time you were coming up when Kevin Smith was starting.
Probably.
So I was still, I was in 8th grade when I saw Clerks, and it blew that movie made me know that what I was doing for my future, for my life. And it's not a horror film, but it also touched on that, like, I worked at a video store and I just wanted to make movies, you know, and that's, so I that movie changed my life. But anyway.
Well, there you go. So during that period, I was working on writing that film, and it was a go film. We were going to make it. It was a demolition. It was an anti-hero demolition derby movie.
With Stewart. Stewart was in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I think my friend just sent me. He was going through his garbage, and he sent me the CD, because we did a soundtrack. Great bands on the soundtrack. I mean, we had this thing where
it was gonna go because you had been the Weinstein sent you away to like go to demolition derbies and watch.
Yeah, like
and
he sent me the DVD, like, or the CD. That's the back cover of the CD.
That's awesome.
You know.
Can you text me that?
Sure. Yeah. Too bad you can't see the band. I have a copy of this. I got a box or two of the CDs. A lot of good bands on it. Songs about Stewart. See, it was a demolition derby movie, and I think Gaunt is actually on there as well. It's a compilation album with a bunch of independent bands that just wrote songs about Stewart, and that we were going to put in, because I got them to mix the instrumentals. So it would be instrumentals and then songs, and just go hand in hand with the movie that we were going to make. But so before we went into production, Bob Weinstein and Harvey Weinstein, they were going to make Scary Movie.
Yeah. And
they're already making that movie. That was greenlit. But before they greenlit my movie, they said, look, we're not just going to go make a movie and have this guy star in it, and he's never done anything.
Right.
So why don't we put him in Scary Movie? So they called up Keenan, and they were like, we've got a guy. We want him to play Doofy. We're already developing movies with him. We want you to put him in the film. Now, Keenan's not just going to, I'm not going to listen, even though at the end of the day, those other guys, the Weinsteins, if they say they want someone in the film,
they get what
they're going to film. But I did have to go do an interview.
Yeah.
And honestly, and it's not that I'm like a broken record, but these are characters that I was performing on stage for a long time, like, you know what I mean? And also in short films. So I just was like, what else? Let me read the script. Okay, it's a spoof on Dewey. Obviously he's supposed to be dumb. When it said Doofy, to me, like, there was an underground comic character named Doofy, actually, and very similar in the 8-Ball. I think it might have even been part of 8-Ball comics, but also it just seemed, it harkened me back to like the old cartoons and stuff like that. Like Doofy sounded dumb. Yeah. Right? It's a word. Don't be doofy. You know what I mean? So I definitely was like, what's the dumbest guy I got? And it was this character, Chip, that again was in from that same stage show. And
So that was one of your characters already? Yeah. Even though you didn't come up with Doofy, you just used one of your other guys.
Yeah, and I went in as Chip. And I had Chip was like a big time Hulk Hogan. He was a Hulkamaniac.
Of course he was.
So and because I would go thrift store, shopping.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Right. Well,
huge, retarded. Maybe like
Chip was just a Hulkamaniac.
Yeah.
Right.
just a Hulkamaniac.
Nobody else. He wasn't even a fan of. I don't think he was ever even watched wrestling.
It's just the Hulkster.
But only because like when I was at a thrift store one time, I found the satin jacket it was a Hulkamaniac satin jacket, and then I found like the satin shorts. Which were Hulkamaniacs, and then I had I was finding all this Hulkamaniac stuff, so I was like, okay, I'm completely Hulkamaniaced out with the Velcro shoes, and that's what I went in as. I went in as this guy that was there to interview, but I played Doofy, but as Chip, and just didn't break character for Keenan and his brothers, and they were like, what the fuck, like, this is kind of messed up, and they called and they're like, you seriously want us?
We can't use a real one.
Yeah. Like, what's that guy's story? Is he really retarded? You know, what's the deal? And they're like, no, he's playing a character. And they're like, then they called me and they go, you got to go back in. You got to go and tell them and be yourself. Tell them you're not dumb. You're not retarded like that. And they go, come on, man, it's too funny. No, go back. And then, no, they liked it, but go back and so they understand that you're not, you know, we're not sending them somebody that's chemically challenged. And so then I went back and I got the role. Yeah. But I was already going to get the role, but they just had to approve me. And then the irony is that was in the can. And then we went to go shoot Stewart and it was over budget. It started out as a $2 million film. And now the price tag was like seven and a half because the Weinsteins, they didn't like the fact that there was no real demolition derby in the movie. Because the whole thing was all about me fixing up the car and then racing because I'm a fuck up to get there. And I kind of messed the car up a little bit to get there. And then when I get there, I just got knocked out right at the very, like as soon as they blow an air horn, start, you're in it. Yeah, I'm up against the wall, which was like something that really happened to me at a real demolition derby for this magazine called Grand Royal, which we did this piece on, and it was going to like be this like, oh, this big article and all this stuff, but it didn't go anywhere. They hit me in Bakersfield. We did this demolition derby. I just got pushed up on a
hay bale or something.
No, not hay bale. Telephone poles. They had like these telephone poles around the thing, and I just got pushed to mark out like the inside of this arena. They didn't have you do the whole arena. And I just got knocked up and my wheel was stuck. And I was like, I'm done. You know, I was like, literally, I couldn't even move in like 10 seconds. Yeah, I was the only one. It was like, not a dent on my car. You know what I mean? Like, it's not broken, you know. And so I was like, oh, that's the movie. This whole movie you're thinking. And they were like, no. He's got to be, and I think Waterboy came out and it was just this big hit. And they're like, you got to transcend. He's got to be the best demolition derby driver, but natural. And he does things like flip cars in the air. And he doesn't, you know, he's just this guy that is, he's got a talent that nobody else has, but through being a maniac, which is fine. It did work. It actually did work. Yeah. The script was still going to work because it was about the dude that is just the terrible driver. That is just a guy like opening the guy that dings those doors, the guy that pulls up to a curb and does, you know what I mean? And hits the garbage cans because he's coming in too fast. You know what I'm saying? So it was still worked, but they canned it because then it's like, oh my gosh, it's $7 million now. And that's the best part was Bob and Harvey got on and go like, yeah, it's too expensive now. And I'm like, damn it, you guys made it expensive. And yeah, we can't take this chance. You know, we really like the script, but we don't think it's going to go that well. And then, you know, and I cried and it was hard because we were on location and I looked like the character and stuff like that. And Terry was getting ready to do Ghost World was going to come up. So I just stayed. He's like, just hold on.
Was Ghost World a Dimension film too?
No.
Okay.
No, independent. MGM.
That was full.
MGM.
Okay.
But it was a full independent.
Yeah.
And so he just said, look, we'll just find something for you to do in Ghost World. Why don't you just come for a day and we'll figure it out. And then they were like, okay, we think we could put you in the 7-Eleven. You know, like we'll figure out a way to put you. You seem like Stewart seems like a kind of guy that would hang out in the 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course he is.
We couldn't call it Stewart, so then we changed his name to Doug.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to get, you know, any lawsuits or anything like that. So that was it. That the Scary Movie came out and it was a huge hit. And then Bob and Harvey was like, oh man, you know what? We made a mistake. They called and said we made a mistake. Like this probably would have been good to do now knowing that you
That it
can
worked.
lead off of this.
Especially, I mean,
And then after Ghost World came out, and they were like, so many people are talking about your little role in that of the character. Like, then that was even more proof of like, oh, we screwed up.
I was cleaning theaters, a movie theater, Edward Cinemas, when Scary Movie came out, and man, I don't know how many times I saw that end of credits vacuum scene because I'm cleaning theaters, and it's just one of those things where it's like that character stole the whole movie, you know, and I mean rightfully so, and of course the whole Usual Suspects deal at the end was powerful. I mean, you could have easily jumped into a leading role directly from that. I mean, 100%, and that Demolition Derby movie would have been awesome.
Yeah. No, and I did do one directly after that. Then I did Frank McCluskey.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's when everyone was like, who is this guy? Let's give him a role. Let's give him another movie. But that was not the movie that I intended to make and not the movie that I pitched and wrote. I did write it. I have a writing credit, and I wrote a film, and that's not the movie. There is a lot of jokes that are in there, and there's a lot of the da-da. The story is the story. It's not the tone of what it's supposed to be. And the one big thing they changed was I was supposed to be the Dirty Harry of insurance claims investigation. So it was more like that cocky idiot swagger of like an Inspector Clouseau.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or Naked Gun.
Right.
It's more like Naked Gun of a guy that's like, I'm a claims investigator. Don't talk to me.
Right.
Insurance claims. Frank McCluskey, insurance claims investigator. You know, and in the script it's written, and I dress like, you know, Dirty Harry. So if you go and look at the artwork, I actually have it here. We'll show you later. It's the only thing that stayed was the tweed Dirty Harry in the brown tones suit. They were like, wait, you're a claims investigator. This is where studios and producers get too wrapped up in things people don't care about. They're like, but why? Why are you trying to be the best claims investigator? What happened? Oh, well, my dad was in a bad accident. I just made something up. Okay, but you should have a phobia if your dad was like an evil Knievel, because in the script, my dad's like an evil Knievel guy.
Right.
Madman McCluskey, and he tries to jump these Iranian gunmen. He tries to jump 72 Iranian gunmen, and they all shoot him down, and he blows up, and he's in a coma. I don't know if you ever saw the film.
I did.
That was in there. That I'm fine with. I like trying to jump 72 Iranian gunmen. I like dressing up as Mr. T. I like the guy in a wheelchair, you know, who's faking it in the wheelchair, and he drives a monster truck. That was the humor it was supposed to be, but it was supposed to be shot to look and feel like a Dirty Harry movie.
Right.
It was supposed to be gritty,
Rhyme.
and just the camera, not these really bright pastel colors and a really not a bad soundtrack, but a jazz soundtrack. You know, like the chase scene with me dressed as I'm dressed as I'm undercover as Mr. T, but the chase scene is on Venice Beach, up fire escapes and on the roof, and that's in there. But it was also supposed to be a guy on congos, as a street musician. You know, that's written in that's what's driving.
That's the music.
The music, and they didn't put that in. They put like, you know, Wham in there. You know, like it was like they changed the thing.
Feel.
Yeah, it didn't have and by the way, that's just my take on what I would have done. It didn't have to be that. It was not the right take, and almost did not have a take. I'm not going to call out people.
It just got a little generic in your mind.
Yeah, it didn't have a take like this movie Killer Rose that we worked on.
Yeah.
Ricky Bird
had vision.
He had a vision. He had a take. He had a tone and a take and camera angles, and in his head he saw how he saw the scenes.
Right.
He might even have storyboards. I don't remember, but he had push-ins, push-outs. There was a time when the camera was going 360. Like,
no, I mean, there was artistic design in his mind.
Right, and there should be.
Especially, I mean, he knew what the opening credits would look like. He knew what the chase scene was going to look like. He knew how you would appear.
And here's the thing. If you go to Ghost World, which is a camera on the sticks.
Artistic
but
though.
It's a camera on the sticks, but it's got composition to it. And then obviously there's art department look, you know, and a certain
No, I mean,
look
it's
and a thing.
tonally,
But it's
it
not like-
feels like a beatnik movie. of
Right.
the
It's not
90s.
like there's these crazy camera
Yeah.
movements or anything like that. It doesn't need it.
No.
It's let the acting
Yeah,
and the scene and the characters play for themselves.
Well, and almost like when those characters leave the frame and it stays empty, and then they come back in, and you're like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Right.
You know, it doesn't need those fast cuts.
Yeah, and I think, like, you know, if you honestly, when I'm doing a Dirty Harry spoof,
Yeah. It should be shot like
then-
Dirty Harry.
Yeah, you make
It
it look
should.
like Dirty Harry because
Yeah.
that's really what it was supposed to be,
Yeah.
a Dirty Harry spoof, my version of Inspector Clouseau, and we lost a lot of that. They were so worried about me being likable. They were like, let's, you know, make you smile more, be more nice, walk in a little friendlier, let's soften you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you have a?
And so I think that was a bad. But here's the thing: I already had a movie get shut down
Yeah.
that I curled up in a ball and cried on. And I'm like, oh crap! Do I walk away from this? Because I could see
You can watch it happen.
it was a slow rabbit hole of it turning. It's not turning into what I pitched in the room, because there's a lot of chefs and there's a lot, you know, and then other people. Your agents and managers and stuff like that. You also, I wouldn't say you trust, but they do understand that, like, hey, we're the ones in contact with these big executives and the money. They trust us. We trust them. Let it go on autopilot. Let it, you know what I mean? Like, it's above your pay grade at this point.
Right.
Like, they know the type of movie they want to make with you. The studio knows what they want to market you at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So it really isn't like, so if I would have just walked off of that, then that would have probably been the last thing I ever shot.
Right.
I wouldn't have
At
been
the
working
scale,
20.
At that scale.
Yeah, and I went on to shoot more at that scale. Also, even at any scale,
Yeah.
that it could have been close to completely done. You know what I mean? So I've managed to stay in the business for another 20 years,
Right.
which I like doing. Like, the only time my brain is normal is when I'm on set
Yeah.
and I'm in a character and I'm doing. That's the only time I'm actually like, oh, okay, I don't have anxiety. When I'm offset, I'm bouncing around. I can't talk very. You know, look what happened at lunch. We're talking about a couch or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's an important couch.
Not really. It's just that I'm out of my mind.
Well, when it comes to that large scale Hollywood movie making as opposed to indie filmmaking, and I mean, you've got indie experience at the 3 million mark. You've got indie experience at the 100,000 mark.
Yeah.
What is there a place you feel most at home, or does it matter to you?
I feel most at home at 100 million because that means I'm getting paid. I would love to.
But
I want to work on expensive movies.
You
because
might
I
not be
would like
making
to
the
make-
movie you want because there's so many cooks in the kitchen. You might not.
Yeah, but at this point, nobody's making a Dave Sheridan movie. Like, I'm just being hired on as an actor. I would love to work on a studio movie and have some retirement money and a nice car, not worry about how am I going to pay my next credit card bill.
Right.
So.
Preferably in the comedy genre, or
Whatever. Yeah. Now, I think my talent is on a studio film level. I think I can perform in comedies.
Yeah.
Honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's also another reason why. First of all, I have my age, my exposure. I am who I am. I've already, hey, people know, they've seen me. But you're not a new chick. You're not like the new funny guy. And I'm not talking about being a lead. I'm just talking about being in a Will Ferrell movie or being, you know what I mean? The issue though is now my age. Like, well, what roles am I even playing in that role? And who are the lead comedy guys? Where do I fit into that?
right?
And then also, like, what roles? Am I the dad now? Am I an uncle? I'm not the buddy anymore because I'm too old. But also, they don't make studio comedies.
Not the same.
I don't name the one that came out this year. We're already at June. What from January to now? What's the spring comedy?
No.
Right? I don't know.
I don't know.
But I don't watch a lot of films.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I know horror movies have come out, and I know action superhero
Yeah, the
movies.
superhero movies. Yeah, you don't see a lot of Dumb and Dumber anymore.
No Spies Like Us, or there's no yearly Eddie Murphy movie.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Will Ferrell is about the only one that can make movies, but he's also already going to
Or
like
you
kids,
have the
family,
Step Brothers for a minute, like
That
with
was like 10 years ago.
yeah. But I mean, like you just don't see that every
You
year.
give me the last 2 years, but even this year, we're already
You're
halfway
right.
through the
You're
year
right.
almost.
Yeah.
But we're certainly in the thick of
You get
April.
Star
May.
Wars, superheroes, and some horror films.
Right. So they make comedies, but
Yeah.
they go to Netflix.
They go straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those budgets have gone down
But
for everybody.
Some of the quality Netflix has put out is awesome. Same thing
I'm
with
sure.
Amazon.
And
I
some
mean,
has been really bad.
Yeah.
Something that I don't remember what they made. My wife was watching it, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you can." So some of it was not that good.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's the problem is it gets mixed in.
Yeah.
And then people don't know what to watch. Because the little thumbnail, everything can make
Everything
that and the
looks
little everything looks good on artwork. If everyone's a Photoshop master and everyone can write a little thing of guy returns home from the war, gets wrapped up in the mob. You know, that's like 75% of every. My father-in-law, my mother and my father-in-law, they watch a Netflix movie every night and they read that thing.
Yeah.
He reads it out loud and she's like, I don't know. And it always is somebody gets wrapped up in the mob. Like it's always like, you know, the guy was becoming a priest but gets wrapped up in a mob. Guy came home from war, got wrapped up in the mob. Professional baseball player blows out his knee, gets wrapped up in the mob. It's like the plots are always at the end wrapped up in the mob.
Yeah. Well, we should make. He was fighting Jason Voorhees. Got wrapped up in the mob.
Right.
He was exorcising demons. Then got wrapped up in the mob.
That one could happen. The priest that's exorcising somebody, but
Yeah.
then is extorted by the mob
Yeah.
because, you know, it was like the uncle.
Yeah.
He had information. Did he tell you anything in there while he was also possessed? Did he rat anyone out? Well, I don't know. I mean, his head was turning around and, that's Vinny.
He's rolling over.
I'm telling you, yeah, he rolled over. He rolled over in the air and he spit like blood at me. Oh, he's a rat. He's a demon.
Yeah, wrapped up in the mob.
Wrapped up
So-
in the mob.
So with moving into the horror genre and
Yeah.
and handling some of these lower budget ones, but still you're clicking them off the list pretty quick.
Yeah, here's the thing. I like horror I like filmmaking horror.
Yeah.
I like making it.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing because you know, and you're there, you're on set, blowing up stuff, blowing up heads, ripping off things, blood, the sort of like sight gags and stuff like that. It's fun to do. It's fun to be on set and shoot. that
Everybody
stuff
gets
and-
excited about it.
Yeah. So I like the genre, and it's got a really good fan base, a fervent fan base, a committed fan base. But the fans of horror are true fans of a genre, and they reward people, and they're they like to watch stuff. They're not. I hate to say. I don't want to like make it sound like I'm cutting them down where they're not like picky.
Yeah.
But there's such fans that when stuff comes out, they give it a shot. They watch it, and they can move on. If it's not great, they'll go, okay, screw it. I that one wasn't any good.
Right.
Right. But they get word of mouth of which one's good, which one's not.
Yeah, and they're also a forgiving audience that says, well, these guys had 6 days and they did what they did and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So actually I don't think many people do that with 6 days, but 12 days. Yeah, they got 12 days and I work on a lot of films in 6 days and we get cut down pretty hard for it, but that's
I would not watch if I saw them bloody discussing like, gotta check this thing out, and they shot it in 6 days. I'd be like, pass right away.
Yeah.
That's me, but I'm not. Here's the thing. I told you, I'm not a horror movie fan though.
Right.
I don't watch. I'm not a lover of watching horror movies, but I enjoy making them, and I love the audience, and also think that it is one of the only genres that is being made for 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand. That investors, because you still need investors at that that money. Somebody's got to put up 100 grand somehow, and nobody wants to take a chance or invest 100 grand into a comedy.
Right.
They are making comedies for Netflix, and they're about 20 grand. to 50, sorry, 20 to 50 million.
Yeah.
You just can't make, you can't make a comedy in 6 days like you can do a horror in 6 days,
Right.
or 12 days. It just
Right.
doesn't happen. It's not, certainly nothing that's going to sustain itself, have enough visual sight gags, comedic writing, be able to pull enough talent in, but it's more about shooting it, like
Yeah.
the comedy of it, you know,
Yeah.
that because it costs even more to do comedy stuff than
Right.
horror stuff, because you could disguise horror mistakes with dark lighting.
How do you feel about comedic horror or horror comedies?
Well, I love it because I'm a comedian, so I love it. Yeah, and those I will watch, and that's what I certainly want to do my own
Right.
stuff like that I'm working on, and I have other straight up serious movies, but I'm writing some horror comedy. The one thing I'm finding though is that horror producers, and I wouldn't say this is horror fans, I think horror fans would enjoy horror comedy.
Right.
I think they're not
They do.
like, yeah, I think they like
Big time.
they like good films. So if a horror comedy is good, they're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And because people that like horror movies, they're not like, I hate comedies. They
Right.
also like comedies. You know what I mean? But they're just really, they're specific about, like, I'm a diehard horror fan. The people that make horror movies, like a Blumhouse, or however you say it, or whatever other companies that are willing to finance $100,000, $200,000, if they make their money in straight horror, they don't want to go near horror comedy.
Right.
They just don't. There's too much. They already have,
Hard to sell a horror comedy.
it's hard to sell, and they don't want to be in the business of making their life any harder.
Right.
They already have. They're already
that-
selling. They're already doing a good job selling straight horror.
Yeah.
And that's their brand. And there are tons of scripts for that. So they're not like, oh, I guess we'll make a horror comedy now because no one's written a regular horror for us to look at. So, and then the thing about comedians on the comedy side, I think they're afraid to make the horror side. So, you know what I mean? They want to make comedy.
Yeah.
They hear the word horror, and the horror people hear the word comedy, and it's like, so for me, it's hard for me to find, where am I going to find the financing for someone that understands? And you know, I'm sure there's a lot of horror comedy failures, but I think what people don't realize is how many horror comedies are very successful.
Yeah. Army
And
of
I'm wondering
Darkness.
how they even get made.
I mean, you look at Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2 even.
Uh-huh.
You look at Tucker and Dale versus.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good one.
You look at there was an awesome internet
The
series.
Hatchet movies.
Hatchet, yeah.
The Victor Crowley one I'm in. Like, I didn't know, like I told you, I'm not a fan of horror, so I
Right.
really don't watch them.
Right.
So I didn't know what Hatchet, I thought it was really a straight up
All American.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was.
And the first one was, although there's humor in it,
Yeah.
it was very old school American horror, but it got campier in the sequels.
Yes, exactly. And ours was probably the
Super
most.
camp. Yeah.
Right. And as I was making it, I didn't know that it was
Right.
until we got there and started making it and going
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I'm making a horror comedy. This is, oh wow, I'm going to do great in this. I'm
Yeah.
perfect for this.
How
no,
did
wonder,
they-
no wonder he wrote this role.
How'd
for
you
me.
get involved with Victor Crowley?
Adam called me up. He wrote the role for me. He said,
Oh.
Dave, I wrote this role for you. You got to do it. It's top secret. Don't show anybody.
Yeah.
But I knew Adam for years, though. Already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know how we met. Honestly, I really don't remember how we met, but I would go to his office and
Yeah.
chat and try to come up with, hey, man, I'm a fan. I want to be in your stuff. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Because I was a fan of his comedies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say I was a fan of Frozen. I didn't see Frozen.
Right.
But I think that's really what he does best. But, you know, but I liked his show, even though I wouldn't even call that a horror comedy, but the
Yeah.
Haddonfield, that was more of a comedy sitcom.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. So, yeah, we're just trying to find something to do with Adam. And he said, yeah, I wrote this role for you, and I was like, awesome. And I read like a section. I go, the way the dialogue was and the character, I go, oh, this is me.
I got this. Yeah. Well, and he wrote it for you, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super
So I am doing more horror. One is because I want to make this horror comedy,
Yeah.
but I also have other horror movies I want to make. So to build up my resume to have more horror, and I don't really care about the budget.
Right.
It just happens to be a lot of them are independent and low because honestly, that's what the larger amount is being made.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a
90% of
horror
horror movies are 100 grand or 200 grand.
And I live in that world. I work on them every day, all day.
Right.
You know, I'm doing it, but it's kept me employed
Right.
for 15, 18
There's
years.
there's multiple reasons for why I'm sort of like, if you look at my IMDb, it's like, oh wow, it's like I'm sort of shooting into. He's doing a lot of horror movies because you actually brought that up.
Yeah, yeah.
So you really did notice that, you're saying.
Yeah, of course.
That's not me just telling you that.
No, that's 100%.
So what, you know, I've done these horror conventions.
Yeah.
And I sit there, and even today we did a signing at your place, and we see kind of response I get, and like Kane's got a line around the block because he plays Jason, and I play. I'm an actor and I have a lot of movies, but I'm like, I need to be a killer. If I'm a killer, I get a line. So like, but no one's just gonna. You have to work your way in a little bit. Especially because I'm not 6'7" and a giant guy. I'm not an ex-professional wrestler that could be like, dude, I want to be the next Jason or whatever it is. I have to be more of a Jack Nicholson from The Shining or Anthony Perkins. I got to work my way into a psychological, you know,
or just a lunatic of some sort.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, okay, let me just go do horror and build up. So if I can build a resume, then the stepping stone hopefully is, and then I am in a Blumhouse horror. Once I have a bit of a cred, then that's how casting works. People are like, well, Dave, he's got a following with horror. He's in a lot of horror things. He's got some branding. His name's brand. You know what I mean? So they'll put me in it. So I just got to work in that field a little bit longer. And the other thing about it is, one is, they're making a lot of those movies, so there's work to be had in it. Third is when they're like lower budget, like 200 grand, 100 grand, like this Killer Rose we did. When I got the call from Felissa Rose to be, you know, hey, I want you to play Hank, she also was like, play the character any way you want.
Right.
You have free reign. And so on all these movies, they're letting me just...
They're letting you make creative choices because you have a lot more experience than some of the filmmakers making these movies.
Right. So they're letting me make these creative choices. And so that's also a value add with my reel, with saying, hey, wait, I haven't done this, so let me go and do this. Meaning, okay, in this creative choice, I'm going to play this character. I want to, you know, like I'm just making something up, but like I want to have a British accent. I want to play a dude that's like from Train Spotting. You know what I mean? I want to play like some hardcore Scottish guy. I'm going to have my opportunity to do that stuff in these lower budgeted movies. And I, not to be facetious or mean, because they almost have no choice.
Right.
They kind of have to let me because...
Well, and they're casting you for that reason that you're going to bring something to the table.
I'm going to bring something to the table, but they're also casting me because now I have a name value.
Yeah.
But then I can sort of like, I can leverage that to be like, okay, you want me to do your film
I'm gonna do it like this.
Actual minimum wage. Because my paycheck is minimum wage, below minimum wage. The thing about when you act as an actor on these low budget movies, the PAs make more money than you.
It's crazy.
They make more money because they work every day.
Yeah.
So they'll go do a 13-day shoot at $200 a day and they made this much money. But then you come and you're getting paid the same day rate. It really is. Ultra low budget on SAG. It's almost that day rate. And then if you break down the amount of hours and then traveling and the fact that, wait, I only worked 4 days, then they got more money and they're off to the PA's off to the next one next week. They don't stop working, where it's like, I'm not going to work for another 2 months. Yeah. So it's, you know, a smarter Dave, if it was about money at this point, would be doing something else. Right. But I still have an artistry in me that is, I'm not eating cat food yet.
Not yet.
I'm just like, okay, let me see if I can bang out more roles and play more characters. And something might happen or something might not, but I think I have more to give. But it really is also, if I go and do those things, like I said, you're not paying me enough to 100% listen to I'm not a puppet. Speaking of puppet matter, you're not paying me enough to be a puppet. You're going to let me play this character the way I want to play it. And it's going to work out better for you. Yeah. Because if you go back to Ghost World or Scary Movie or whatever movies I might have done, when I am behind creating the character and the role versus a director trying to pigeon me into how he sees me playing it, those are the ones that jump off the screen when I'm allowed to just kind of come in and bring my channel whatever
How was
personalities inside.
how was working with Rob Zombie on Devil's
Yeah,
Rejects?
great.
And
Great.
how'd you guys get hooked up? How'd that work?
Ghost World.
Ghost World.
Yeah, everything leads in it. Yeah, he was a big fan of Ghost World, and when he saw Ghost World, he's like, "Who the fuck is that?"
That's awesome.
And then I read for him, and I was growing my hair out from this rocker movie I was making. So luckily I had like long hair, and I had a beard, which I shaved for the character. But when I read the character, it was a period piece. It was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, Chips was like,
yeah.
to me, it was like, Chips. I love Chips. That like, they had that hair.
Yeah.
I don't know how they wore helmets and still had perfect hair. It was great. But they had it was that period of feathered hair. And so I was like, oh, I want to have this feathered hair. So I went in as the character. I feathered my hair and did the thing and got the glasses and just played the character and did that, the scenes. And there was no real direction on the acting.
It was just,
but it was more like he already knew, like, oh crap, this guy came again. It was like he came and brought something right away.
Yeah.
But he already liked me from the other stuff and said, yeah, this will be great.
Gave you the free reign.
Right.
That's awesome.
And Rob's like, if you look at that cast or any of his guests, he's always,
Hand
Priscilla
selecting.
Barnes.
He's
isn't
hand
it?
selecting.
Yeah, you know what I mean? She's from Three's Company.
Yeah.
And, so he's got like classic, iconic horror people, but he's also like
glittering
comedy.
70s and silly.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. He likes an eclectic cast. So he's great to work with because Rob's a camera director. Rob is more about the lighting and the look and where's the guy standing and turn that way. And I like, from his music video stuff, you know what I mean? He's more a visual guy of, I want it to look like this.
Yeah.
And he was really more hands off with the acting.
Yeah.
There's some might be discussions, not with my character, but with like William Forsythe, who's playing a much bigger role and has some sort of journey down this sort of like hellacious journey with this Firefly family. There's bigger stuff at bay there on in those relationships. So he really didn't pull me aside saying, let's discuss Ray Dobson. It was more like, dude, you know what you got to do. You're the sheriff's idiot sidekick.
I got to visit set during Michael Berryman's chicken fucker.
Yeah, that's
scene.
A great scene.
And it was
that scene actually is better than anything I do in the movie. So
it was the same thing though. I sat behind the camera with Rob. It was a great day, but he just let Ken Forhey and Michael go. Yep. And he directed the camera.
Right.
And he was explaining all about shooting on 16 millimeter and
Super 16.
Yeah, Super 16 and why all the great horror films were, and it was awesome. But you can
remember
tell
why? Because I never asked him.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was Super 16.
So why
Evil Dead was Super 16 to give that feel, that look that the 70s had.
Okay, so they have so it helps give that green.
Yes, I mean it looks so authentically in the 70s just on the film. Not, I mean you can add that with After Effects and stuff, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Not,
because I have the 80s comedy that you're going to work on with me, the 80s horror comedy. I probably will just, we're not going to have the money. Yeah.
You're going to shoot that on You're going to shoot that on digital, and then we will totally make it look 80s. So you mentioned the script that you want to make, the 80s horror comedy. Do you want to move more into directing? Do you want to? Is that
I went to college for directing.
Is it your?
That's the thing, is I went to school.
Would you prefer?
My parents are still very. My dad's about to die soon too. Like he's got like one of those cancers.
Oh.
I will feel really bad if they paid for college and I haven't. I went to college to be a director, a film director, and I haven't had that opportunity to direct a feature film. I've directed television pilots, lots of short films, a lot of music videos. That's how I, that band Gaunt, and that's how I met a lot of bands, because between Buzzkill and Scary Movie was 4 years, 96, and that was all music videos.
And from what I remember, an old conversation.
Headhunter, Touch and Go, a lot of independent record labels.
And you spent a lot of
Geffen. I did some Geffen records.
You spent a lot of time hanging out at the beach and surfing during that time.
I did
too.
Yeah. How did you know that?
You told me that one time.
Oh, okay.
You said between Buzzkill And Scary Movie, I just
Yeah,
kind of
surfing
went to
and
the
snowboarding.
beach and went surfing a lot.
Yeah, no, but not as a no. It wasn't like wasted time. My wife and I talked about that. Like, I got a lot done,
Yeah,
but somehow I was still going surfing.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Twice a day. We would go in the morning, and then we would go after she got home from work. We'd be like, okay, let's go for 2 hours,
Yeah.
and then we would end surfing and go get sushi. Then go home, and we'd go to and I would work. I'd work on a script. And then we'd go see a movie, and then I'd go in the studio and work on recording music and edit and the music videos because I would be up till like 3 or whatever.
right.
But the difference is I didn't own a home then. I didn't own car. I did have his kids.
Yeah,
I didn't have kids.
yeah.
Kids all of a sudden
I know
take
exactly.
up
I
a
get
lot
that.
of, okay, I got to take them to school. I have a little bit of time now. I got to pick them up from school. Oh wait, now I got to get them to soccer practice. Then I got to go home and do the homework.
Yeah.
No, so
I feel it.
now I'm tired.
Yep.
And it's not
They
just
wear
kids,
you out.
It's
Their
kids,
lives
it's
wear you
kids
out.
and tired, and then could be also getting old. If you get old, maybe you get tired more. I don't know. I don't know about that.
So with
But don't worry, because I'm going to kill them.
with the stuff that you are going to direct, and you will
Yeah.
get these movies made.
Maybe.
Do you plan on attacking a bunch of old contacts, or are you looking for new blood? You looking for new people to tap into and kind
I
of?
would do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that for on the acting side.
No, more for getting it made. You
Oh,
know,
getting it made.
getting that funding, getting
Yeah,
the thing
both.
going. You know?
Both.
Yeah.
And beggars can't be choosers.
That's kind of a
I'm going to
good.
go back when I redo this artwork and change that 80s thing. Here's the thing with that. It's set in the 80s and it's a horror comedy. But I'm going to stop saying that. I'm going to start saying
It's set in the 80s. It's a comedy.
it's comedy. Yeah, got to get rid of the
Comedy
horror.
sells, man.
Well, the thing about the comedy is this. Like I said, the horror, your budgets are 200 or less to go get independent. And yeah, can you get, if you had a Stephen King remake, yeah, maybe
Right.
you will get 20 million. If
Yeah.
you were doing Freddy,
Versus-
Jason,
yeah.
you might get 15. The bottom line is this. They will always make it as cheap as they can possibly make
course.
it because you got to make your money. You want to make, lower the budget, the higher the profits. So, but with comedy, it's acceptable for higher budgets.
Well, a low budget comedy is still $1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's what we wrote and you've read, because I'm going to have you come and do effects on it and stuff. I would be more comfortable at 650, 700, $1 million.
Yeah.
I would be very comfortable. It wouldn't be like,
It wouldn't-
I can make what I wrote. I
Right.
can make what I intended.
Right.
I can make what I
Less compromise.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you go down to 200, we're cutting scenes.
Yeah.
We're not putting the 80s music in. It's not,
The
you know what I
licensing
mean?
and yeah.
And the wardrobe and the locations, everything suffers. And then the ability to get the talent and cast, so everything suffers.
Right.
So that's why I will go back to the people that I know that are very successful, that have leverage towards other monies in the comedy world.
Right.
I'm going to bring them this other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we move on it, and I hope we knock it out of the park, because it's pretty much my dream job of a crazy slasher, stoner,
Yeah.
comedy, horror,
Right.
whatever you want to call it. It's an amalgamation of my like-minded juvenile
The
interests.
good news about it is, even though we'll present it as a comedy, going to the horror conventions, it's still going to be another feather in the cap.
Yeah.
And that may be the one that brings a little bit more, because of, like, in our film, we have an iconic
Right.
anchored killer.
Right.
And that's the biggest horror movies have the iconic anchor figure. to
Right.
it.
And
Right.
it also has tons of spots for cameos.
Right.
Tons of, I don't want to say Rob Zombie casting, but you've
Yes.
got convention heads that could fit into roles
Right.
throughout the entire thing,
Yes.
and people from the rock and roll world. I mean,
Yes,
all
yes.
over the place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I haven't quite figured out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Right.
I haven't figured that out. My one thought is, on the rock and roll side, is our rock and roll guys aren't really actors.
Right.
I don't want New
Right.
Jack City and, Mick Jagger, David Bowie. They can't act. They couldn't act. They don't act. And
Dave Bowie's dead.
yeah, that's why he couldn't. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
He just couldn't. Now.
I mean, he was great in The
dead.
Labyrinth.
He's can't.
Yeah.
I meant he can't
He
act now
can't
because
act
he's
now.
dead.
Right.
Jeez, Tom. No, but so my thing is, it's probably better for me to get actor people that are musically inclined.
Right, right.
If you're counting on their performance
Right.
stuff. You know what I mean? So we'll see though.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up because this has been a long talk with Dave Sheridan, and we've been at it all day, actually.
Yeah.
So
It started a long early day and it's still
I will-
going. And we're going to go to your the Tom Devlin's dinosaur adventure. We're going to head over there too because I still got to see that.
yeah,
So
you got to go ride a T-Rex before you go back to
I
some-
know. And then I get back at a car ride back.
Yeah.
With I had Turbo Negro on my Spotify. I listen to artists on the Spotify.
Uh-huh.
This was I was driving out from Los Angeles, so I
Yeah.
knew I was going to hit patches. That's no radio,
Right.
I would imagine, right? That's
Yeah.
what I remember in the past. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Spotify, this is perfect, right? But I like just listening to an artist, but after a while, it's like, oh my God, 3 hours
Of the same
one
artist.
artist,
I'm really an Audibles book guy. I just listen to books all the time. I've almost never have like a band playing in my car anymore. It's always a book or a podcast. It's talking. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, you shifted. You're just addicted.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
It's a comfortable addiction now.
Yeah, it really
You
is.
probably are you remembering any of these books though? Is it really?
I
You know
do.
what I mean? Is the stuff I think
No,
it's
no.
just kind of going through one ear.
I really do
I would
remember
fall
them.
asleep.
I am
I'd
a
fall asleep.
super audible learner though. Like I
You
can't
are?
if I read, I forgot 2 minutes later, but if I hear it, I remember everything.
That's
so
cool.
but if I were to read it or whatever, I don't remember anything ever. I have to read like 17 times just to get through the same page.
I'm a
Scripts
slow
suck.
reader.
Scripts are the worst.
Yeah, we get along because I think we're very similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Although I've never done the books on.
Oh, it's incredible.
Let's just call them audiobooks.
Yeah,
Because I want to say books on tape, but
Yeah.
that would really
The
be
weird
interesting.
thing is-
Although that would be great if I only want books on tape. Books on tape, please. Do you even have a tape player to put it in? No. So can you give me a cassette recorder too? And I'm going to need one of those
I have
12-volt
a tape.
adapters.
I have a tape player on my motorcycle. I
Right.
ride an old ass motorcycle with a tape player.
Yeah, that's
But,
stupid.
But the thing is,
Let me make this motorcycle more dangerous. Play a tape really loud.
so you got to flip it over
Yeah.
halfway through.
So yeah.
But that being said, the audibles, I also can only listen to like biographies. I don't listen to any fiction. Like no
Why? Why
storytelling.
not? Why?
I don't know. It loses my attention, and I'm thinking
Okay,
about
so
stuff.
no, but have you ever listened to?
Yeah, like I tried to listen to a Star Wars novel,
Right, okay.
and I love Star Wars.
Yes.
But I can't listen to them.
Yeah.
And then he went over the hill crest.
So it kind of
and
gets
blah, 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 blah.
lost.
Ah, it's
There's
just
too much to follow.
yeah.
Too much
Like
visual.
I'd rather watch a movie or read a comic book. But when it's
Give me an example of then an audiobook.
but what I listen to is like Vincent Price's biography,
Okay, yeah,
Hulk Hogan's biography.
right.
I listen to a lot of wrestlers,
Okay.
a lot of horror filmmakers. Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, did
Yeah.
a thing called Texas Chainsaw Confidential.
Oh,
Awesome.
Dan, by the way, Dan gave me that book, his filmmaking book.
I put it back on the shelf. I didn't know he gave it to you.
I don't know. Oh, is he?
It's fine. I'll give it to you.
Why don't you give it to me and I'll treat it nice and then I'll bring it back. Well, I don't think he said, "Hey, here's my book." I think he said,
It's a brilliant read.
Yeah,
What he's
look
talking
good.
about right now is director Danny Draven wrote a book called Filmmaker's Book of the Dead. Freaking awesome.
We're not
There-
sure if Danny gave it to me, so I'm just going to steal it.
It's fine. He can have it. Actually, there's a volume 2 out that's harder to find.
That's
but,
probably why Danny gave me volume
but he gave
one.
me volume 1.
'Cause
So
volume
there's
one
still
sucks.
Blockbuster Video is still mentioned in volume 1.
But if anybody is willing to read this as an audiobook, please put it together and send it to me
Yeah.
and Tom. 'Cause
You want to know? I'm going to tell
I'm
you
not going to read it.
the best audiobook I've ever heard or listened to.
Is what?
Kane Hodder narrates Unmasked, and it's his biography, and
He read it.
he reads it, and he cries 3 times in the book, and he bears his soul, and the stuff that he talks about in this book, Unmasked. If anybody's not heard it, you need to hear it. I wrote Kane a text. I said, "Listen, man, you are already the toughest son of a bitch I've ever met.
He is a tough guy. I
But-
will give you that.
The fact that you got so personal and talked about such personal things and then read it out loud to the universe of weirdos to listen to,
Yeah.
he talks about some shit in that depression wise, idiosyncrasy, little weird things that I told him, I said, you're a whole different level of tough. I had no clue that anybody could be that honest with strangers. It's crazy.
Now you got me.
And he talks about his burn stuff too,
Yeah.
and it's intense.
Is that early on? Does he
The
cover that
burn
early
stuff's
on?
early on,
Yeah.
and then the real personal stuff is later in life. It's,
What did he burn himself on?
So he, based on his story that he tells, he was doing a promotional stunt.
Yep.
He was a young stunt man. He's from Sparks, Nevada. He goes back to Sparks, Nevada with a photographer journalist, and he lights himself on fire. The man from Sparks who made it, basically. He lights himself on fire in Sparks, Nevada. And he couldn't put himself out. He did it.
So wait a second. It was for a newspaper?
It was for a newspaper.
So it wasn't even on film?
No.
Oh, maybe a photo.
Photos.
Okay.
And this is in
He's wearing an outfit.
76.
He's wearing the outfit.
He was wearing regular clothes. He had covered himself with rubber cement with saran wrap wrapped around his skin.
No, the rubber cement's on the outside.
On the outside.
Right.
But
so that's what he lit.
He used less than par rubber cement. He used what was not supposed to be used because it was cheap and he had no money. And he lit himself on fire and he couldn't get himself out. And she drove him to a stranger's house where he got in their shower while his skin fell off and terrified their child. I mean, the woman, the journalist, who he mentions by name several times, but they've never seen each other again. The thing is in the book,
had clothes on top.
He had clothes, but by the time he was done, he had nothing.
They already burned off.
Yeah,
right?
everything burned off. So
was the rubber cement underneath the clothes?
It was on top, but it was the wrong kind.
He painted that on the clothes.
Yeah, and it didn't go out when it was
And what did he have?
to.
Aluminum foil?
No, saran wrap.
Saran wrap?
Yeah, something like that.
On your skin?
On his skin.
That doesn't protect you from a fire.
No, it didn't work, sir. That's why he burned. And so the thing is for years and years he lied about it. He lied about what happened.
Yeah, that sounds like a retard.
He was completely embarrassed.
I would be embarrassed.
And this book.
I thought it was like
I
did this fall Poseidon Adventure 4.
Yeah,
did the burn thing.
So this whole thing, and then he went to a hospital that mistreated him, and he got stuck in the hospital for 6 months. He didn't come home. I mean, there's some crazy shit that happened with his burn, and he should have died. He got MRSA. I mean, things went way, way south. And he came back from it, and he got a job as a stuntman who was clearly a fuck-up in his mind because of the way he looked. He got a job, I think he said he came back on Incredible Hulk or Wonder Woman was his first thing, and then built a reputation with people and just through network. He explains the whole networking through this whole book, and it's incredible how he came back up and got to the top and then had to deal with the repercussions and psychological damage later in life from what happened at that point. But also there was a real interesting fact.
That's a major determination, man. That's hard to do, but I really do respect. Yeah, that's crazy.
And the fact that he put it on, I just couldn't believe he put it out to the public. Now, Kane, a lot of horror fans know him as Jason Victor Crowley. Kane Hodder is a genuine stuntman who's been involved with every goddamn movie that's ever existed.
That's how I first met him, was stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
I was the head of stunts on Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects, yeah. He's a huge stunt guy.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, Dave, I want to thank you for being on the show. If there's anything else you want to plug, shout out, do, say, scream.
Nah, just go to my IMDb. If you see something that is interesting, then Google it and find out how to watch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why do I have to be responsible for you people to fucking find my stuff? It's all there. I shouldn't have to say a thing.
This guy's hysterical. He's funny. He's got a great, work ethic, and I'd be happy to work with him on any film. So I will talk to you guys
ethics.
later.
My
and
ethic.
Midnight at the Monster Museum.
Ethnic.
Out.
I'm white. This is Dave Sheridan, and you're listening to Midnight at the Monster Museum. And it's midnight. And we're at a museum. It's got monsters in it.